just got back from Cavalier in Tonbridge in Kent, the first Wargames show of the year for my group, and we've had a great day. We've missed this show for a couple of years, obviously, because it's not been around because of COVID, but it's back. A little bit diminished perhaps by the break, but nonetheless it's back, and it was great to see some familiar faces, chatting to people, spent a few pounds, admittedly with fewer traders this year, which is a little bit of a sad point, but maybe it will build up again. As I say, they've been gone for a couple of years because of COVID and other issues, and you know, they've understandably lost a few traders in the intervening period of time, but hopefully we'll see the show bounce back next year. I hope so, because this is normally a good little local show for Kent, slap bang in the middle of Kent, so it's very easy for a lot of people to reach, and they usually have a really good selection of games, and that was absolutely true today. Some really cracking little games and some really nicely painted miniatures, and a good selection of traders. I certainly enjoyed myself. I spent probably close to £100 on bits and bobs. I went with a list. I always go with a list. Paints I needed, but I also managed to pick myself up a couple of really good books to do with Bosworth Wars of the Roses, my current project, so I'm very, very happy, and I've already eagerly started flicking through and looking at some of those. And I had a bit of time this evening, so I've been able to download and sort through some of my photos, and I thought I'd share them with you, just to show off some of the traders that were in attendance, but also some of the really excellent games that were there. So, you know, I spent quite a bit of money. I got some paints I needed to restock, desperately needed to restock on some paint, and I managed to get the bits that I wanted. But it was also good just to chat with some of the traders, people I haven't seen in a while. But as I say, there were some really excellent games, including this one by the Retired Wargamers Reloaded. Their Carantan game was absolutely eye-watering, beautiful, 3D printed buildings, lovely little vignettes such as this aid station, a real pleasure to look at, and every detail that you looked at was as good as the last. So I managed to get snapped several pictures of different bits of the games table. Really excellent, a very worthy game to see at a show, and a proper inspiration, which is what these shows are supposed to be about. There was plenty of families and young children going around, and couples with their children, and I hope they saw tables like this and felt inspired, because the level of detail and the work that went into it, yes, it's probably above the ability of most gamers and even some clubs, but nonetheless an inspiration to show what can be done in this amazing and peculiar hobby that we have. But there was also a wide range of other games, including this Westeros Game of Thrones inspired game, which I'm sure would have caught the attention of some people. Again, lovely little models, really nice looking games, really interesting just to see what different people are doing. Not my taste, but nonetheless very interesting. But there was some beautifully coloured miniatures, plenty of Indian Wars, Indian Mutiny stuff on display today. Lovely little models, and again, it was just really good to see a high quality of miniatures, little stories going on the table, as well as the main games. And there was some participation games there. Unfortunately, when I got to see this one, not a lot was happening, but there was a couple of tables that had groups of kids around them, which is always great to see. And like I say, families enjoying themselves, so seemed to be as well attended as normal. Certainly the bring and buy was very well attended. There was quite a good selection of stuff. I bought a couple of little items. I know one of my friends from the Reject come away, well, several of them came away with arms of stuff from the bring and buy, but also, as I say, some really nice, scattered in amongst the traders, and that's some really nice games, including this lovely one from the Society of Ancients. Again, beautifully painted miniatures, an inspiration to look at, lovely detail, really, really nice to see. And this is the sort of show where you get quite a wide variety, historical stuff, fantasy, steampunk games such as this one, really interesting range of games. Not all of it to everyone's taste, but that's the point. It's a showcase for the hobby.